Most people think intermittent fasting takes weeks before anything happens. The truth, your body actually starts changing the very first day, just not in the way that you expect it. And here's the shocking part that 99% of people don't know. Almost everyone who does fasting eventually hits the same hidden roadblock that makes the scale stop moving. And that's exactly where most people give up. But if you know the real timeline, step by step, you'll be able to anticipate when it's coming, avoid the stalling, and then finally unlock the results that fasting was supposed to deliver all along. Now, when I say fasting, I don't mean going 72 hours without food. There's a place for that. That's prolonged fasting. Today, we're talking about daily intermittent fasting, which is really just breaks from eating. In most cases, it still means you eat every single day. You just give your body longer breaks in between meals so that you can start burning fat. People can do this in a few different ways. Some people skip breakfast and then they eat from noon until 7 or 8 at night. That's called a 16-8 time restricted eating fasting window. 16 hours for fasting, 8 hours of your eating on a daily basis. Some people eat normally 5 days a week and then pick 2 consecutive days where they only eat like a limited portion, more of an OMAD, or just 500-600 calories. That's called a 5 and 2 method. And that means you're off for 5 days of just from fasting and you're just eating normal, and then 2 days where you're focused and dialed in. Others alternate between eating normally and fasting all day. That's called alternate day fasting. Kind of been in a rhythm of that a little bit lately. In the short term, some of these do work better than others depending on the body type, and you can experiment with them. But the truth is, according to research, all of those approaches usually lead to about the same amount of weight loss over the long run. So it's really about finding the one that works best for you if you want to incorporate in longer pauses of eating. In the long run, though, scale ends up about the same. That means no matter which approach you take, you're likely to end up about the same place. So if the results are similar, the real question becomes which one actually gives you the biggest return on your health for the effort that you're putting in? Which one steadies your blood sugar? Which one lowers your blood pressure? Which one trims down dangerous belly fat and is still simple enough to stick with? After doing a lot of research, a lot of self-experimentation, I can finally say that the answer is early time restricted eating. This one's my favorite, and I'll explain why. I like to call it night fasting. And this is when you eat earlier in the day. If you're like me and a huge breakfast person, but it could be eggs, or it could just be something as simple as smoothie or my protein coffee recipe even. And then you're finishing eating by 3 p.m. And then you stop, you don't have any more food until the next morning. Now, this is kind of challenging in our society because there's so many draws, events, television, foods, snacks, drive-thrus that are pressing late night habits of eating. This is why it's so powerful, I think. Eating during the 7 to 3 window lines up with your body's circadian rhythm. It's the natural clock that governs how you digest your food, resulting in all the benefits that I listed. And then once you start eating in this manner, the changes really start to show up quickly. When you go to bed and you're getting natural fasted state for 8 to 10 hours, you are burning up the food, the calories, the intake well before ever going to bed, which completely changes the work your body has to do before you go to sleep. Within about 12 hours of fasting with early time restricted eating, your body already starts shifting from burning sugar to burning fat. You get there earlier. Scientists call this the metabolic switch. By the 24-hour mark, blood sugar and insulin levels are already coming down and keeping your glucose steadier throughout the day. And by the 36-hour mark of implementing this, insulin sensitivity is already improving, even before major fat loss shows up on the scale. Now, the first couple of weeks of implementing any of these types of fasting, whether it's the night fasting method or intermittent fasting or OMAD, in the first couple of weeks, here's what goes on. It can really feel like the hardest part because there's so many habits and we're so tied in to the emotions around foods. And it's hard not because it isn't working, but because the scale also doesn't move that much yet. So for cracking those emotional ties and feeling like you're starving yourself because actually we were overeating before, and then now we're getting into a bit more of a rhythm compared to 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago, hunters and gatherers are not probably having 3 meals per day, right? Like, oh, we got our 1 meal and then we're going to go, find some more. It was crunched down a little bit more. But So you're changing that whole habit. But it feels so different from today's society. And so you get discouraged when you're doing that for a week or two, and then the scale doesn't move fast as your brain would think for not ingesting food. On average, most people lose 1 to 4 pounds in the first couple of weeks. Most of it comes from the fluids that your body is clearing out, from glycogen that's built up in your muscle stores and burning up energy, and then waste coming out. So even though the fat loss is modest at this stage, important changes are happening underneath the surface. And this is where healing is being prioritized over just shedding weight. Blood sugar levels continue to stabilize across the day. Insulin sensitivity is continuing to improve. Blood pressure is beginning to come down. People also find that hunger starts to get a lot easier to manage. 3 to 7 days, you adapt these gremlins. It's called ghrelin, right? That prompts you to eat. It's like a little gremlin inside of you, if you remember the Gremlin movies, and you've got to retrain that and calm it down. So by the end of the first week, most people feel like their new eating schedule is more natural and they're no longer fighting the cravings as bad. There's going to be moments still, don't get me wrong. It's true that energy can dip at first, but by the second week, many people notice that this actually feels more steady and they feel clearer than before. Mood often improves by then as well, just because your gut is detoxing, it's impacting the dopamine and the happy chemicals in your brain. Just note that before you get there, you might experience detox-like symptoms, feeling more tired than usual, or even a dull headache. But just rest assured that it's just your body adjusting. Adding in some electrolytes is an easy way to curb that. That's why I highly recommend using electrolytes regularly, especially if you're a faster. Keeps your minerals topped up as well. Now, it usually takes 2 to 4 weeks for your body to fully adapt to fasting, which means that this stage is very temporary. So the real challenge here is mental. You're putting in the effort, but the payoff on the scale is still small. That's why this is one of the most common points where people tend to give up. But if you know what comes next, you'll have patience to ride it out, because real fat loss is right around the corner. By the first 3 months, month 1 through 3, fasting has moved past the reset stage, the detox stage, the healing initial stage, and into real fat burning mode. And at this point, most people are down 4, 6, sometimes even as much as 10 pounds. And unlike those early weeks, this isn't just water weight. The majority of the weight coming off now is true fat loss, just from shortening the windows of eating. Eating during the first 2 meals of the day and done by 3, eating between 12 and 8, eating normal for 5 consecutive days, and then doing 2 days of very restricted eating, or just doing OMAD 1 meal a day. There's many different ways to do it. It's getting you to this outcome. Over the next few months, a realistic pace is about half a pound to a pound per week on average. Steady, consistent lifestyle changes. You could still be having some not so good for you meals or moments, but the fasting is making up for it. I know. I would love to see you eat really good, nutritious foods during that time as well. But even if you're not and you're off, at least you're giving your body time to recover from. Some weeks, it may be more, some less than a half pound or a pound, but steady fat loss is what you can expect once your metabolism is fully adapted. Now, research shows clear changes in where the fat is coming from. On average, trunk fat is down about 1.5 to 2 kilograms. It's 3 to 4 pounds off the midsection, love handles. Visceral fats, deeper inside the body, wrapped around your organs. It reduces about 10 to 20%. That's huge. And then the waistline starts to shrink 2 to 5 centimeters during these first 3 months. That's 1 to 2 inches. Seeing clothes fit differently comes with a surge of motivation, right? You're in your sweet spot now. You might find that you have more energy. You might find better mood because you finally just have proof that it's working and you're seeing it and you just feel good about yourself. So we went through this feel good phase. Now we're in this look good phase. I want to get you over that hump so that you can use fasting to live good long term. So as exciting as the look good phase is, there's a catch. The progress doesn't keep accelerating forever. Something starts to change between months 3 and 6 of this habit. Your fat loss progress begins to slow down. It's not just in your head. Your metabolism is literally adapting, or you could look at it as sabotaging your attempts to lose weight. Studies show by this point, your body will start to burn 10 to 20% fewer calories each day compared to the start. Okay, so from the beginning when you first implemented it to now, your metabolism has downshifted a bit. Okay, in some cases, the slowdown can be greater, as high as 40%. At the same time, the hormones that control your appetite can start to shift a little bit against you. Leptin, the hormone that tells your brain that you're full, drops a little bit more. Ghrelin, that little gremlin, the hormone that makes you feel hungry, can come up a little bit. So not only are you burning fewer calories, you're also starting to feel hungrier than before. This is why this is the danger zone. Most people hit this stage, they see the slowdown on the scale, they get frustrated and they give up. Or worse, they double down and they try to lose more weight by going even deeper into caloric restriction. There is a place for that. I have protocols for that, but you really have to ease into it intentionally. But just going harder at restriction, cutting calories even more, can just dig a deeper hole and lead to some nutrition deficiencies, driving metabolism even lower, even risk losing some muscle. Another common approach is that people swap diets. Oh, I see this one all the time. They just change, like, well, my friend was doing this, and they just completely switch diet plans and diet approaches. They're just tools. Or changing fasting strategies and thinking that just changing this fasting strategy is going to kickstart the results. I don't have a problem with shifting up fasting strategies, but research shows it doesn't work to reset that metabolism burn. Remember, we're 10 to 20% lower caloric burn on a daily basis. So what does it? How do we break through this plateau? Science has proven 2 strategies that actually protect your metabolism and restart fat loss when your metabolism slows down during fasting. Would you like to know what those are? I was so intrigued by this. The first one is called a carb refeed. Carb refeed? I get excited about that. Here's how it works, okay? Instead of tightening the screws harder and fasting even more, you do the opposite and you loosen them a little bit. A refeed is when you eat a maintenance calorie dose 2 days a week, with a good portion of those calories coming from healthy carbohydrates. Healthy carbohydrates, you can see my other videos, are the ones that contain the fiber still. So whole grains, your brown rices, quinoas, maybe even some oats. Just make sure you get them organic so we don't have, glyphosate and things like that involved, non-GMO. Rooted vegetables, some sweet potatoes, carrots, low glycemic fruits with the fiber, right? Think berries, think grapefruits, think Granny Smith apples, beans and lentils, chickpeas, hummuses, black beans, dishes with those, right? Now, what this does is signal to your body that food is available, which cuts your slowdown in half. Instead of your metabolism dropping by around 80 calories per day from where you started, right? Your metabolic burn on a daily basis, it only drops about 40. And because carbs refill glycogen in your muscles very quickly, it protects lean muscle mass at the same time while you keep losing fat. So that's strategy number 1. 2 days a week, you're adding in more attentional, what I call lifestyle approved carbohydrates. The ones you could add back in safely, good idea, and you will begin to reset the metabolism. The second strategy is just taking a break from, I don't love this word, but the diet. So you know what I'm talking about, right? Diets and programs are like swear words out of my mouth because they're such short-term thinking, right? We want this to be a habit. That's why I'm making this video, to help you to make fasting a habit that you can do, but understand how it works. Now, in one of the longest studies on weight loss plateaus, put a WL in the comment below if you've dealt with a weight loss WL plateau, right? And if you're stuck in one of those or in one of those right now, this big study will help you. One group of people cycled between 2 weeks of eating in a deficit and 2 weeks of eating at the maintenance mode, the lifestyle mode. By the end of the study, this group taking diet breaks lost almost 50% more fat, and they only had half the metabolic slowdown of the group that just continued to diet nonstop. It works because when you give your body a break, it reduces the stress signals that drive your metabolism lower, conservation mode. It also restores normal levels of your hunger hormones so that your body can't trick you into overeating. When we switch from challenging our body to a lifestyle maintenance mode, it doesn't mean you just eat whatever you want, okay? You still need to eat healthy foods, whole foods. You can grab one of my books. I break this down for you. Just increase the amount you consume so that you're no longer in a caloric deficit during those 2 weeks, and make sure they come from healthy sources. The 2 approaches are carb refeeds and diet breaks. Healthier fiber-rich carbs going in. Those are the research-backed tools that allow you to push through a plateau without wrecking your metabolism, without wrecking the scale, without feeling like you fell off the wagon, got ran over by the wagon, and never want to see the wagon again, right? There's a difference between hitting a wall at 6 months and being able to keep losing weight over the long run. Which brings us to the big picture. What intermittent fasting looks like once you've been doing it for 6 months or longer, when it becomes a habit. By this point, you've already seen the biggest changes over 6 months. Your weight is down, your waistline is smaller, your energy is steadier. But what happens if you keep going? If you use the strategies we just discussed to avoid hitting a plateau, then over a year, most people could realistically expect to lose between 10 to 15% of their body weight. For a 200-pound person, that's about 20 to 30 pounds. Just from getting 1% better yesterday than you were today and being consistent. You don't need something new for your diet, something new for your approach. You need a consistent you. Most of that 6-month change is actual fat. Not muscle, not water weight. You can also expect the long-term health wins to start really showing up. The visceral belly fat continues to drop. Blood sugar control significantly improves. Blood pressure comes way down. And some of the studies even show improvements in strength and performance, even if you haven't been training specifically for that. Perhaps most importantly, though, is that science shows that early time-restricted eating, or the night fasting we spoke about, is sustainable long-term. Even older adults had adherence rates close to 100% during the research studies, proving that this isn't just a quick fix diet, it's a lifestyle habit that you can realistically live with for years to come. Now, if you want to get the most out of early time-restricted eating and you love to see results, as big as 15 to 20 pounds of fat gone in as little as 30 days, and don't miss my other video. In it, I lay out my step-by-step blueprint for quick fat loss, the exact foods that turn fasting into fat burning, the daily habits that keep your metabolism from stalling, and the powerful fat loss boosters that can multiply your results. If you've been waiting for a clear science-backed plan that actually works in real life, this is it. I'll include a link to that video here. Click it to watch it next, and I'll see you there.